What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video, and let me tell you, and boy am I excited to do this video today, because today will be talking about The Last of Us, and man, is The Last of Us special to me. Last of Us Part 1 is one of my most favorite video games of all time. It's at least in my top 3. Its only competition for me really is Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, I've platinum Last of Us on the PS4, platinum it when it came out for Part 1 remake on the PS5. I platinum Part 2 when it came out on the PS5. So as you can see, I'm a bit of a Last of Us glazer at that. So I was excited for the prospects of what Last of Us Season 2 could be. And a little bit of background, I absolutely adored Last of Us Season 1. I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was an amazing adaptation of the video game. And I even thought it was an amazing evolution of the video game. Some of the certain changes they made, I thought actually added to the story at hand and added to the whole experience. I mean, I was so happy with what they did with The Last of Us Season 1. So it was no question that I'd be excited for Last of Us Season 2. And unfortunately, very quickly I realized that this wasn't going to be the same go around as Part 1 was. Immediately from Episode 1, I realized that it was deviating heavily from the video game, and from Episode 2 I had hopes of, okay, wait, maybe they could stick the landing. And then by Episode 3, man, let me tell you, I was just gutted, honestly. I was really disappointed in the direction the show was heading, and I have a few reasonings for why I'm just disappointed with Season 2 as a whole. And I'm not the only one thinking this way. A big reason I wanted to make this video was because I was looking at the IMDb for The Last of Us Season 2. And if you look at each episode of The Last of Us Season 2's IMDb score per episode compared to Season 1's episodes, so just compare how Last of Us Episode 1 Season 1 reviewed compared to Last of Us Season 2 Episode 1, just see how those compare, and do that with Episode 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll proceed to see a vicious cycle just like the theme of the video game. So I guess it fits if you think about it, but the idea is it's clear that critics, fans just don't think this season is as good as the first one, and if not worse, significantly worse. I try to deviate from just what the haters are saying, obviously, because you just have people that don't like the story of Part 2. I'm not one of those people that doesn't like the story of Part 2. Like I said, I platinum Last of Us Part 2, so that just shows how much I actually did enjoy the video game. I don't think it's better than Part 1, but I do think it's a worthy story though, absolutely. And that's why, again, I was excited to see Season 2, but it just hasn't stuck the landing for me. I mean, I'm really disappointed. I still have Episode 7 left, but that's not going to be enough to fix the whole season as a whole and my entire criticisms with the season. So that's why I wanted to make this video today, to kind of discuss the major reasons as to why I think this season just didn't resonate with the fans, with the critics, all around. I mean, I'm just seeing so much criticism, so much critique, so much disappointment from the fans, from the critics, from everyone, that I had to make this video as a big Last of Us fan myself. And I need to see if you all agree with what I'm saying too. Let's just get straight into the video and go into why Last of Us Season 2 failed. And I know fail is a harsh word, but in comparison to the impact, the global impact that Season 1 had of The Last of Us, I do think this is a disappointment in more ways than one. Let's get into it. Deviations, and more deviations. Look, that was my first criticism, my first kind of qualm and problem I had with Last of Us Season 2, was all the deviations it was taking, and major ones at that. Season 1, of course, had plenty of deviations, like the Bill and Frank episode being entirely different was a huge one, but I think it was actually for the better of the story. In terms of the deviations for this season around, the deviations they're making from the video game, I think they're all for the worst, to be honest. If anything, minor improvements in some regards, but overall, just it's affected the story for the worst, to be honest. Right from the get-go of Season 2, we have an entirely new, different scene, and obviously Season 1 started off with a different scene with that whole talk show moment, but it immediately went to the main part of the game, if you remember, and it immediately went back onto rails as the video game that we know and love. Part 2, I was waiting to finally see some familiar scenes or some familiar set pieces, but it was taking a long time to get there, and when we did, the structure of it was completely different as well, and that's kind of one of the biggest problems, is the deviation of the structure of the story. I think Last of Us Part 2 structure leans itself just as well to the television medium as it does the video games, because a lot of people would probably say that's why they switched up the structure, because the structure for Last of Us Part 2, some would say, probably only works for the video game media. But I disagree with that. I actually think it would work just as fine for the television format, just as Part 1's structure worked perfectly for the television format as well. Why are you switching it up just to mix it up? I don't get it. Other deviations I don't get is from the small things, like why is Dina with Joel when Joel ends up dying? Why does Tommy not immediately go for revenge in order to keep Ellie at base? Why were all the Joel flashback scenes scenes all the way pushed to episode 6 instead of splicing them in between each episode, in between the season. That way we know what we're fighting for. That way we know what Ellie is fighting for. Another one is, why did they immediately reveal Abby's motivations from the get-go instead of surprising us like, oh damn, she doesn't like Joel, and then she shoots Joel and it's a complete shock to the audience and you want to find out why the hell did she kill Joel. Instead of just showing us immediately, I feel like it takes away from some of the impact of Joel's death and how surprising it is. So that was one I didn't like either. Why is Ellie acting so different? Why is Dina taking the lead of this season in comparison to the video game where she was a side character? Now she feels more like a main character in this season and almost like the main character of this season. Just huge deviations all around, and that's a criticism that I had to note. Why did they go so heavy with the deviations this season? And more importantly, why were all the deviations they did actually negative to the story this time around?
I'm gonna be a dad. Yeah.
Hey, I didn't want to be a burden.
Well, you're a burden now, aren't you?
This is the biggest point I had to get into, and it's the fact of Ellie. Our lead of the Last of Us Part 2 story is, of course, Ellie, and Season 2 would no be different with Ellie being the lead of the show. Of course, Joel being gone, Ellie has to take the reins of the story, and I thought she did a phenomenal job, Ashley Johnson, for Part 2 in leading the story and her becoming the main character of the Last of Us franchise. I've always been an Ellie fan myself. She's my favorite fictional character of all time, so I really actually appreciated Ellie being the lead in The Last of Us Part 2. But something's wrong with Season 2's Ellie, and I don't know if it's that she doesn't feel like she's strong enough of a lead or what it is. And look, before I get into this part, I need to preface this by saying I have no personal problems, obviously, or issues with Bella Ramsey or how people make fun of her looks and stuff. Those aren't the things I want to get into. I want to stray away from that toxic side of it all. I'm just going to talk about her performance. I'm just going to talk about the writing they gave for her, dialogue, tone for her, not how she looks, because I want to get into the whole thing of people trying to say she's ugly or things like that, but I will get into the youthfulness of her, and I'll stick on that because I don't want to go too much into her, because I do think she did a phenomenal job in Season 1, but Season 2 is not the same. And again, I don't think it's entirely her fault, but what I must say about Ellie this season is she has not matured in any way. She has not grown from Season 1, and again, I don't know if that's Bella Ramsey's fault or if that's the scriptwriter's fault, Craig Mazin, Neil, I don't know. But what I will say is she hasn't seemed like she's elevated herself. She actually seems like she's regressing in a sense and becoming more of that innocent, childlike character. Obviously, as the season progresses, she does finally, snap more and become more aggressive, but it's not like the video game at all. Immediately from Joel's death, Ellie is vengeful, she's rageful, she's bitter, she's mad, she's angry. Season 2 Ellie, it's like it takes a long time to finally, okay, come on. Okay, we're finally there. She's getting mad. Oh, nope. She's still regressing a little bit. She's still happy, cracking jokes. It's like it took forever for her to finally snap. And I think that takes away from Part 2 story, because Part 2 story is about, the revenge, the anger, the way you lose yourself when looking for revenge and violence and the horrors that it brings. Season 2 doesn't have any of that because Ellie doesn't feel like she's carrying that throughout the season. I mean, she's cracking jokes with Dina throughout the whole time. She's being really nonchalant about the whole thing, both of them, to be quite frank. Dina seems like she's more mad about Joel dying than Ellie is. They even have a little hubba hubba moment, which I have no problem with. My only problem with it is that Ellie from the video game wouldn't have done that because she knows what's at stake. She's just so focused on her mission that she wants to complete that. She doesn't even want to deal with Dina, which leads perfectly into this part of one of my fundamental problems with Ellie and why I realize she is just fundamentally a different character, is the theater scene. When Ellie finds out Dina is pregnant in the video game, what does she do? She flips out. She gets mad. She calls Dina a burden. Just look at how different the scene is portrayed in the video game of Ellie finding out Dina is pregnant in comparison to the television show when Ellie finds out Dina is pregnant. Take a look.
I'm gonna be a dad.
I'm gonna be a dad.
I'm gonna be a dad.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't want to be a burden.
Well, you're a burden now, aren't you?
Ellie's stoked and excited and happy in the television show, whereas like I said, she's mad in the video game. It's just a fundamental difference in the character and how they go about the world. And the reason it's such a bad change is because in the video game it would make sense that she's mad that Dina went on the quest with her to get revenge for Joel while she was pregnant, because now she's a burden to Ellie's mission to kill Abby. Whereas in the television show she's stoked and happy, and it's really weird and off-putting because you're like, wait, aren't you upset that this pregnant woman went on a quest with you for revenge that you're trying to get for your surrogate father that's now dead, and now she's holding you back because she's pregnant? Not her fault. But why are you more focused on that? Shouldn't you be still focused on the revenge? It just makes it seem really different. It doesn't have that, Ellie doesn't have that sense of blind rage and blind sense of revenge and vengeance that she wants, that she had in the video game that was so fascinating to unfold. She just doesn't have it. And look, I wanted to get where the writers were coming from, where the director and Craig Mazin and Neil were coming from, so I listened to the Last of Us podcast that they have, and Craig tries to describe Bella Ramsey having this loss of innocence similar to the one that Ellie has in the video games. But Bella, in my opinion, just doesn't carry it throughout the season 2. It doesn't feel like she's losing that innocence of Ellie. I mean, she's still getting excited at the small things. She's still cracking jokes like she did in season 1, and she still looks the same as season 1 Ellie. And people were saying that wasn't going to be a problem, but this is why I think a recast would have been important, for just to age up the characters, because you need to show that progression in Ellie. And if you're not going to show it in the writing, then you got to show it physically, at least, that she's grown and that she looks jaded. It would also help for the action of the show to have more action scenes, because Ellie looks like she can be capable of imposing that action and imposing that fierceness and that viciousness and that violence. Whereas it feels like in this show, because Bella Ramsey looks so much younger and obviously she's a little bit, well, you know, a lot smaller, it's almost like they can't have her do so much of the violence because they don't think us, the audience, is going to believe that. And okay, fine, I get that, but if you were thinking that, then you're just straight up changing the flow of the video game, and you're changing Ellie as a character, because she needs to be violent. In this story, she needs to murder hundreds of people to show that she really got blinded by revenge. But again, they don't do that because they almost just changed the character fundamentally, and maybe they didn't feel like Bella could portray that, so they switched it up, and I think it did it for the worse, honestly. So yeah, that's one of my big criticisms with season 2, is the changes that have been made to Ellie. My other biggest issue with The Last of Us Season 2 is its pacing. I was very disappointed by the pacing of Season 2. In comparison to Season 1, every episode of Season 1 felt like a mini movie. And yeah, maybe Season 1 had a bit of a cheat code because of how well the structure of Part 1 is in comparison to Part 2, being much longer. But I still think there would have been ways to make the story flow much better. And again, the pacing just got ruined because they added so many unnecessary scenes, so many unnecessary aspects. Yeah, like seeing the development of the wolf and the Sarah fights, all that stuff is really cool, but some of those scenes are so much slower paced, and we're honestly deviating a lot from Ellie and Dina, the leads of this season, that it gets frustrating. Whereas Part 1 felt so concise and so condensed. We would only deviate very few amount of times, and for most of it, it always stuck to Ellie and Joel at that. It never got away from our leads, and that's what made Part 1 and Season 1 such a treat to watch, is we were, like a video game, stuck with our protagonists. In Season 2, it doesn't feel like a video game because obviously it's a television show, I get that, but it's not following the structure of a video game where we're always locked on heavy to our protagonists. Instead, it keeps deviating from them, and it just gets frustrating because I just want to see what the leads are doing. And when we are with the leads, it's still moving really slow. The pacing was significantly slower, and it has me worried for Season 3 because everybody already says the Abby section is super slow in the video game, so I can only imagine what that's going to look like in the television show. So I'm a little bit worried on that end, but hopefully they can fix the pacing issues. I thought many of these episodes dragged and were really slow, and that's with the season that was condensed, because I expected Season 2 to at least be 10 episodes long, 9 to 10 episodes long, and they condensed it to 7 episodes and it still felt slow. That's pretty worrying. In terms of the pacing of the season, it was really slow. I think they could have fixed it by adding some Joel flashback scenes, like I said, to help out the pacing, to let's see a little bit of Pedro, to have a little bit of that original Season 1 dynamic could have been interspersed throughout Season 2, as opposed to leaving it all for one episode. And I guess a couple episodes, because we had episode 1 as well. The pacing was just so slow. The pacing was so slow. It kind of felt like we were just on a little adventure quest as opposed to a revenge quest. And at a certain points, you forget why you're even on this quest, just because we're moving so slow and there doesn't feel like there's anything at stake sometimes. So yeah, fundamental problem, pacing. Please, HBO, fix it for Season 3, please. Again, this video meant a lot to me just because of how important the Last of Us franchise has been to me. So see how the downfall of season 2 is really upsetting, and it's again why I had to make the video. There's so many more topics I could talk about. I could talk about how Neil Druckmann's ideas got pushed to the side, and clearly Craig Mazin and the other writers felt they wanted to make significant changes, so they kind of pushed Neil to the side and didn't really focus on him. And say what you want about Neil Druckmann, but he directed at least the second best episode of this season, being episode 6. So clearly the guy knows what he's doing. The other thing I talk about is that they did so much combat training for Bella Ramsey, and she never even used it this season. I mean, the poor girl had to flip over talk show host. She didn't even use her training that much. Man, there's so many topics I could talk about on what went wrong for season 2. And if this video does extremely well, I will make a part 2 of this video, and I'll milk out this video just like the Last of Us franchise is being milked out to this day.
Bruh.
With all jokes aside, guys, thank you for watching the video. I'm a new channel starting up, so if you guys could support, I would appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. If this video did well, it would mean a lot, considering the Last of Us franchise means a lot to me. But with that being said, guys, thank you for watching the video. And the question at the end of the day is, will HBO fix their wrongs for The Last of Us Season 3? Till next time.